Hi, thank you. Yeah, I grew a disguise for today, just to keep you on your toes. It was also slightly disconcerting to see a cameraman putting a filter over the light above my head. That means I've lost even more hair since that picture was taken, which is terrific and really good for the confidence. So what I'm going to run you through today is a piece of research that we had in the field last year. Because we do an awful lot of content marketing, both for ourselves and for our advertising partners and our business partners, and we really wanted to get under the skin of what drives that and what makes that effective. Not particularly from an SEO point of view. We do have data on that, and obviously we monitor everything that we do through a variety of analytics tools, and if you want to talk more in depth about that, grab my email address, try and buttonhole me afterwards, and we can talk through some stuff like this. This is more looking at consumer behaviours and their interaction with the content and the types of content that they interact with. Our starting point was a fact that most people know, that the vast majority of consumer purchasing decisions are made based on conversation. They're made based on asking a friend or a member of their family what they think about something, and that is the key driver. So we wanted to find out what it was that was going to get consumers talking, or what got consumers talking anyway, how people engaged with content, and how content and content partnerships themselves could start to generate those conversations, and of course the magic question, what impact those conversations had on consumer behaviour. Now, we worked with, just so you know that I'm not just making it up, we worked with GfK, and we commissioned an independent research study from them. They have a panel of about 4,000 households, so we've got a lot of data about tracked behaviour and metered behaviour, which I touch upon in this, but I don't want to do death by PowerPoint. I know you've had a long morning of stuff and there's lots to take in, so there's some references to the different types of websites that people engage with and how they interact with them differently and respond to them differently. Again, if you've got any questions, I'm fairly easy to find online, so do send them through. They did some qual work for us. We had a few focus groups to get some actual opinion from the horse's mouth, as it were, and we were actually lucky enough to have a partnership in the field at the same time that was of a large enough scale that it actually registered on their panel, so we've got some hard data on that as well, which I touched on at the end, which is the bit where I'll try and sell you stuff, because, got to pay the piper somewhere. So, the first thing that we found out, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Association of Online Publishers and the research that they brought out in 2012 called the Rules of Engagement. Reassuringly, the first thing that we found out, predominantly from our qualitative research, was that those rules of engagement haven't changed at all. That if you make things entertaining, if you can make someone laugh, you will get their attention. If you can amuse them, if you can tell them a heartwarming story, or if you can talk about something that they're interested in, that they find entertaining, they will come towards your brand and they will start to talk about that. Again, reassuringly, for a publisher like IPC, consumers are increasingly savvy about where content is being made and who is making it, and they can tell the difference between someone making unique, bespoke content and sites like Ask and the like of that, aggregating content. We're quite lucky, being a traditional media owner, and you don't hear a lot of people saying that anymore, that our brands have always engendered a sense of community, which means that people see great authority in our brands. People are more likely to come to something like the NME for their music news and believe the music news that they read in the NME than they would reading it on MSN or the BBC, for example, because we write specifically about music, and that's seen as a shared passion between ourselves and our audience. And because of that, they trust us, and they've always trusted us as authoritative voices in their areas of interest. Better still, for what I do for a living, these partnerships and these qualities we seem to be able to transfer them to the people that we work with in terms of generating branded and unbranded content for them. People realise that they're getting the same quality of content coming from an advertiser-funded partnership as they are getting from Horse and Hound or Yachting World magazine delivering content to them anyway. They identify already with our brands, so they understand that if someone is taking the time and the trouble to talk to them in the tone of voice of that brand, that they care about them as a consumer and as an individual, and they actually put a really big value in that, and they have a heavier propensity to consider those brands their friends, if you like, because specifically they understand that they're trying to sell to them directly. This lady in question, whose quote is behind me, was very nice about the partnership we had in the field, which was with Diet Coke. We were building a media brand for them. It was kind of a de facto bit of contract publishing, if you will, to give them a voice in the world of beauty, fashion and style. And she really understood that because they had linked themselves to our three major fashion brands, that's Look, Marie Claire, and In Style, that she understood that the information she was getting from Diet Coke would be reliable because it was coming from what she identified as a reputable source. So, other than those highlights, what do people talk about? People don't talk about ads unless the ads are about what interests them. The bloke who said that in about 1959. You know, people talk about what interests them. Very, very occasionally, it's an ad. And intriguingly for us, they don't see that much of a barrier between our journalists and themselves as consumers, because they see themselves as having shared passions with those journalists, and that journalist being just the most authoritative voice in that circle. So they would see our brands, whatever they are, whether that's Country Life or whether that's Nuts, and that's the kind of diversity of portfolio that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. They see them as being one of their group of friends. Relevance is incredibly powerful. We were expecting to find this, certainly in our entertainment brands, and instinctively everyone understands that we talk about entertainment. We talk to our friends about what we saw on television last night, what we went to the cinema to watch, what music we like. So we'd expect to see people going on to have conversations based on content that they'd seen in our entertainment brands. So that's the number behind you. 77% of people claim that they have gone on to have conversations based on the content that they've seen in our entertainment brands. It's not just our entertainment brands that drive that, however. We see that in all of our sectors. Again, here, this is our fashion and beauty sector, that 62% of people engaging with that digital content are going on to then have further conversations about it. I won't run you through every single one of our sectors because we publish about 68 different brands, and that would take until about midnight. But we did find the results were consistent through all of our sectors. And again, if you want any more information on that and specifics around that kind of thing, do come and find us and have a chat with us. When we mapped the size of IPC's scale onto the research and onto this amount of claim behaviour that people were having, we found that we were generating a vast amount of conversations. So in entertainment, per month, we think that we are inspiring about 8 million conversations. Food and recipes, we were generating about 7.5 million. People download 45,000 recipes a month from our websites, which is the equivalent of selling something like 10,000 cookbooks, which would put us at the Times #1 cookbook seller if we were actually selling to them as books, which is an idea that we should maybe take up. Household, we're generating about 5.5 million conversations every month. Now, I'm assuming this is about cushions and curtains rather than bleaches and detergents, but you never know. Fashion, it's about 5 million, and beauty is about another 5 million. And I haven't even begun to get into the stuff that we do about horses and shooting and cars and golf and rugby and all of this kind of diverse portfolio that we have. So people, when they latch onto content, they will then go on to advocate that content to other people and start to talk to them about it, which, as well as the SEO benefits of content marketing, you actually start to get that advocacy benefit of content marketing because you're tapping into someone's passions. And 30 million conversations every single month is a pretty big number of conversations that we're generating. Now, this is all claim behaviour. This is our audience thinking, what they think of themselves, because unfortunately we can't track inside people's minds and know what other people actually think of them, although the government are doing a lot of work in that area at the moment. So 49% of them say that they specifically get asked for their opinion by their friends or their family, by others, which again instinctively feels about right. If you need to upgrade your mobile phone and you've got a friend who is always on technology websites and is always talking about mobile phones, you'll go and ask them what they think the best mobile phone is, and you'll probably act on that advice. So that's the kind of remove that we're operating on and the halo effect that you can get from content marketing. They also feel, again, can't track inside their head and inside of the heads of others, that their opinion is valued by the people they're talking to. And this was one of the differences that we started to see with the metered behaviour and mapping that back with GfK, that people reading premium websites, so the sort of things that IPC or Hearst or Bauer, you see I'm being neutral, I'm mentioning our competitors, generate, seem to have more powerfully influential opinions than those people reading aggregator websites, the AOLs, the MSNs, the Yahoos of this world. Then we started looking at why people were sharing. There's an awful lot of reasons why people share, and we seem to have developed in media a quite traditional idea of how people share and what they're sharing, and I wanted to work out if that was right and maybe challenge that if it wasn't. So the main reason that a lot of people share is, I liked this and I thought you would like it as well. And this is what we tend to define in the modern world as sharing. This is broadcast sharing across social networks. This is putting pictures of cats with bread around their face on Facebook. I see there's some fans of cat breading in the room, which is nice. So this is about defining your own identity by what you're sharing. It's, I like this song, I like this picture, I think everyone else would. But this is broadcast, but this is actually what a lot of people think of as sharing full stop. And it runs a lot deeper than that, because other people are thinking about not just themselves, but they're thinking about what might be useful for someone else. So I know that you're interested in horses or boats or golf. So I've seen this article about a new golf club coming out, so I'm going to send it to you. It's not of particular interest to me, but I know that you'll be interested in it. And that sort of sharing tends not to happen in public, as it were. That sort of sharing tends to happen over email, over the telephone, and something called face-to-face conversation, which a lot of people seem to forget about, but is apparently quite important and a very big thing. A lot of people are doing it. Again, there's a slight difference that we saw between people reading premium websites and those reading non-premium websites, that potentially they're seeing more value in the content that they're getting from a premium publisher than they are maybe getting from an aggregator. And finally, you get to kind of the most prosaic type of sharing, but probably the most powerful type of sharing. And this stuff is nigh on invisible, because this is about relevance and about specificity. If you are having some friends over for dinner and you've mentioned it to someone at work, but you've no idea what to make for, I don't know, pudding, they might send you a recipe saying, oh, this is a great pudding, it's really easy, you don't have to worry about it, because they've taken the time to think about it for you. So you might then end up going on to cook that. It might be that someone is taking their driving test and you found a website where they can do a theory test, a practice theory test for free. So it's kind of altruistic sharing, but it's very, very impactful and is very, very hard to monitor. And again, we're seeing big differences between kind of people picking that sort of stuff up from premium websites and aggregating websites. How people were sharing, and I kind of got a bit ahead of myself and I've touched on a bit of that there, is that sharing content is incredibly personal. Everyone is vaguely familiar with this idea that we have on average 150 to 200 contacts on something like Facebook, and we have about 500 to 1,500. I'm sure in this room there's a lot of powerful networkers, there are probably tens of thousands of people that you're linked into. But this idea that there is this number of around about 150 of contacts that you can maintain loosely, that's actually called the Dunbar number, if anyone's interested. And it's the average size of the village in the Doomsday Book. And it was coined by a guy called, I think, Robin Dunbar, which is to do with the development of the front lobes of the brain. So how intelligent you are is how many people that you can maintain contact with. So interestingly, if anyone's from Kent, the average size of a village in Kent in the Doomsday Book was 100. So just, but mocking Kent aside, it's these 11 to 12 close personal contacts that you have is where the really powerful stuff happens. And we found this not just from the qualitative data, but also from the quantitative data, that if people think something's important to themselves or their friends, they will wait to have a conversation in person or the telephone. They won't necessarily share that in a really obvious way. We saw this again backed up, the people behind me, or quotes behind me are talking about. So someone saw a bit of content on the NME website that was personal to her. It said something about her identity, so she shared it with the world in general, but she knew it was important to some of her other friends, so she picked up the phone and talked to them about it and directed them to it in that particular way, because she wanted them to engage with it because it meant that much to her. And again, we saw that time and time again, people saying, if it's personal to me, I will take the time out of my life to go and talk to someone about it. And this is the power of content marketing and what it can deliver for people like yourselves, because you're generating advocates if you're getting their interest and arousing their passions and giving them something useful to share for people. Now, hopefully there's no one from a big social network in here, as this is the bit where I say that they're not as important as we all think they are. They are important, and the amount of visible shares that you get on social media is very indicative of how people are engaging with content, but it really isn't the whole story. We work with a company called Radium One, who are embedded into all of our content websites, whether they're ad funded or whether they're our own, and they monitor social sharing for us. So we're able to actually see people grabbing the content and sharing it on, and then getting shared on and shared on, and so on and so forth. So in these months that we tracked, we found that there was an average ratio across all of our brands. Again, we've got 68, there's only 2 up here, of about 10 to 1. So I think it's about 12 to 1 in the Marie Claire example, and about 8 to 1 in the NME example behind you there. And this is people actually grabbing the entirety of a page of content, copying it, dropping it into an email, and then sending it on to their friend. Now, I've never done that in my life. That sounds like an awful lot of effort to share a piece of content when you can just copy and paste a URL, but apparently a lot of people do, and we can watch this happening. So great quality content will travel a lot further than maybe people are aware, and that is the tip of the iceberg, because far more people are like me, and 16% of people, and we're reaching about 30 million of them a month, are saying that they go on to that they will share brand links from premium sites and send that content to people. So if you get people interested, they will send that on. And again, as I mentioned, people will just mention it to each other in these things called pubs, bars, restaurants. Apparently they are the latest craze, and you'll be hearing all about it in a marketing context soon. This is the sales bit, but it does mean we're on the last lap. So thank you for bearing with me. Just a very, very quick look at a couple of partnerships that we've done, and kind of how we're continuing to evolve content marketing. So this is a piece of work that we did for a brand called Smashbox. I don't know if you're aware of them, they're a makeup company. They're part of the Estee Lauder group. And this is quite a traditional piece of publisher content marketing. There's some advertorial work where we talk about their products, but in our tone of voice. And we generated some gallery content to pull people into it, and to give them a hook. 36% of people, and this was a key objective for the client, went on from our content to visit the brand website. So you can see there that for content marketing, what that is it's a step in the journey to get people on to actually have those slightly more in-depth conversations with a brand. Now, this is quite a fluffy brand, and it's more of the same content. So if you're trying to sell someone insurance, that journey might be slightly longer. Currently talking to the Cole Funeral Services about content marketing for them. I have no idea where that's going to lead, but it's going to be an interesting journey for us. 20% of people actually went on to talk to someone else about the features. So again, this is where content marketing can get really powerful in terms of creating advocates for your brand or for your company. And nicely, they all said, this is claim behaviour, that they were 3 times more likely to buy a Smashbox product as a result of being exposed to this campaign activity than they were prior to being exposed to the activity. We did some pre and post research on that. This is the work that I mentioned earlier, which was a campaign we did with Diet Coke called Style It Light, where we were building a media brand for them. It was really important for the clients to get more permission to talk to their customers in a much more regular way. You know, Diet Coke is not a brand that suffers from awareness problems. I think when we monitored it, 97% of people had heard of Diet Coke. So their challenges are slightly different. It's about market share, and it's about tone of voice, and it's about how they engage with their consumers and how they increase frequency of purchase and that sort of thing. So we built a website for them that was a kind of insider's fashion blog that had lots of very snippety kind of content that people could dip in and dip out of several times a day, and of course hopefully think about Diet Coke the entire time they were doing it. Now, 1 in 3 of those people who engaged with the site, and again we were able to track this with GfK, considered visiting the brand's website afterwards. Now, I have no idea why you would go to a website about Diet Coke. I don't know what you would expect that website might tell you, but apparently a third of them thought that was a good idea, so we'd done something positive for the client there. 20% of them said they would consider following the brand on social media, and that was actually very important to us, because one of the jobs that we were doing for the client was giving the client more permission to talk to its customers more frequently. A lot of people will tell you that if you're a brand or if you're a business and you're going to talk to people in social media, you should be looking at 2 or 3 Facebook updates a week, maybe a tweet a day, and otherwise you're going to get wear out. As media brands, we talk to our audiences anywhere between 20 and 80 times a day across those platforms. So we have much more permission to engage with them because we're giving them content that they're interested in, that they think is fun and they can send to their friends or is useful for them. And that was the space that we were starting to put Diet Coke in, so it could have those conversations with people more regularly. 20% of them thought the website was so good they wanted to go on and tell their friends about it, which is really nice for us as publishers, and it says that we've done a good job. And a quarter of them apparently rushed out immediately after encountering this and bought a can of Diet Coke. I don't drink it myself, but I hear it is a little bit like crack. So, you know, we got a few more people addicted, which is nice. It makes you proud. So those are two quite traditional partnerships, if you like. That's about us driving people to content with all the marketing tricks that media owners have in their book. Over the last 12 months, we've actually been doing a lot of work. So that's a lot of effort getting people to media brands. Ask any traditional media owner, they will tell you that. In taking this content to consumers and making that journey a lot more easy for them. So we've developed a product called IPC Amplify. This really is the hardcore sales bit. Feel free to fall asleep if you want. We've developed a product called IPC Amplify, which is doing exactly the same job as both of those partnerships that I've given you a whistle-stop tour as doing, but it's putting the editorial and the advertising, the sponsorship, if you like, in an ad unit and transporting that out to customers. We're using, as I mentioned, Radium One, who are our data management partner, and they track social sharing. So we build these unique data sets based on our first-party data. So we're actually only targeting people that we know have already engaged with this kind of content. We can also target their friends that they've sent that content to as well, which is slightly spooky and a little bit GCHQ, but is a very useful thing because we know that we're actually targeting these ads at people who care about this kind of content. And then we build them a bespoke ad unit. Obviously that varies from campaign to campaign and it depends on what the objectives of each of those campaigns are, exactly how they look, and that delivers the right audience to them at scale. And we're able, through our partners, so we have quite a large network ourselves, as I mentioned, but we also work on an exclusive basis with MSN and eBay on this, delivering these ad units into their areas, and through ad exchanges and all these new things and private marketplaces that have been cropping up, we can reach the entire universe of people online in the UK with this kind of targeted advertising. We don't reach them all at once because that kind of defeats the object of targeting, but we are able to work with them across those premium exchanges. That means that we are also able to benchmark ourselves against, we use a company called Moat, who are quite big in the rich media tracking world. I don't know if any of you guys have encountered them or not, who track interaction with an awful lot of rich media campaigns. And they do all of the monitoring on this Amplify unit for us. So we're able to track not just the standard kind of purchase funnel, but interaction time, where mouse clicks are hovering and that sort of stuff, and how people are really engaging with those ad units and what that's actually leading them to, whether that differs from campaigns. Some of those campaigns might be about video plays because we might have an educational piece of video to play. Some of it might be about delivering people to a car dealership website to book a test drive. I mean, we vary the unit depending on the campaign. Every one of those is different, but we can benchmark that against general activity. And because this is in here, you know that these results are quite good for us. So the Mazda campaign that I flashed up on the screen a little while ago, I chose that to show you guys today because it actually happened to be about the same size as their average rich media display campaign that Moat track. And the first thing that we saw, and viewability is a very hot topic right now, that that ad was in view on people's screens 101% more than a standard rich media ad. Now, I wish I could, but I can't quite draw a straight line between the amount of time that unit happened to spend in view and the fact that the unit was there, but it certainly seems to indicate that there was something on that page that was keeping people's attention for a longer period of time than a standard rich media creative would. It's the interaction stuff that becomes really, really powerful, and hopefully this will illustrate to you the power of content marketing and aligning with trusted purveyors of content. The interaction percentage of our Amplify editorial hybrid unit was 123% higher than Moat track across their entire universe of rich media ads. So that many more people are engaging with it. They actually engage with it for 20 seconds longer, 21% longer, which is about 1.5 seconds. And when you consider that people will consume an entire web page in 15 seconds, that is quite a significant amount of time. And if you're really, really boring and a geek like me, what you do is you do the maths on that and you work out that that means that that's 720 hours more exposure and more interaction time with that campaign than you would get from a standard rich media creative. We are continuing to expand that. We launched Amplify for mobile, which looks quite different, as you'd expect. The real estate's very different on a mobile phone, and some of the data tracking is slightly trickier. Apple are a little bit sensitive about us taking their data, but luckily Android are fine. So we're able to do very, very similar things on mobile now, and we're actually in the early stages of talking to the major social networks to create a similar product that works along similar principles in the social space. It will probably look very, very different because it's a very, very different kind of space, and the way that you talk to people in that space is very, very different. But it will be based on the same kind of content and advertising mix and using data to target the right people. Summary means you're at the end, so thank you very much. And thank you very much for the guys at Adido for having us and allowing me to do this little sales bit at the end. I really hope you found it useful. In terms of what I hope you take away from this is that the content rules haven't changed, and it's not just since the AOP said it in 2012. Lord Reith said this sometime in the 1920s when he founded the BBC, that if you inform, you educate and you entertain, then you will get people's attention. That's what content is, and that's what people care about. People in particular connect with and discuss whatever it is that they're passionate about, or what they know other people in their circle of friends to be passionate about. If you're a media owner like us, our brands are part of that community, and in many ways they are seen as one of their friends. And that trust that people have in brands like ours, and the authority that we are perceived to have, and the quality of our content means that people will confer that trust onto our partners. But it's all about making great content. You know, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. I can't get people to read for 20 minutes about Domestos. They just, I'm sorry if there's anyone from Domestos, and I don't think there is. But people just don't care that much about that, or toothpaste and that sort of thing. They care about, going out for a ride on their bike or a ride on their horse. And if you want to interact with them, you need to go and meet them in that kind of space. And you need to find something that aligns with what they're interested in and then move them on that journey. It's easier if you're someone like Smashbox. It really is. It's very hard if you're someone like Cult Funeral Care, but there are ways that you can do that, and there are ways that you can have that conversation, and that involves compromise from media owners, from agencies, from clients, from the product managers, and down to the conversation that you're having. But that is what people share, which is about creating great content. And if you get that right, the results that that delivers for you and for your brands and for your business can be fantastic. So that's it from me. Thank you very much.